right. Well, thank you, Courtney. Thank you to Kadlec for allowing me to come speak to you guys today. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys will get something out of this program. When we're all done here, we're going to have a time for Q&A afterwards. So if you guys do have questions, feel free to hold those questions till the end, but we should have plenty of time to be able to answer any questions that you have. So thanks again. My name is Michael Van Beek. I work for Richland Fire and EMS. I'm a captain paramedic. I've been with Richland for 19 years now, and here to talk to you about our Heart Safe Richland program, what that program is, what it means, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about cardiac arrest, what it looks like here in the Tri-Cities, what cardiac arrest is, and what you guys can do to help. So first off, I just want to talk a little bit about our slogan, don't wait for help, be the help. And that's really the impetus of this program, is we want to engage the community so you guys can act in a time of need and really provide help in a meaningful way. So we're going to take a look at what the Heart Safe Richland program is. And first of all, we want to talk a little bit about emotional preparedness. So we realize that if you witness someone going into cardiac arrest, that's an emotional process. And we want you to be emotionally prepared to overcome your emotions to be able to act in a time of need. Along with emotional preparedness, we realize that most cardiac arrests are going to happen within the home. So that being said, if you by chance happen to see someone go into cardiac arrest, it's probably going to be someone that you know, and more than likely a loved one. So we want you to be emotionally prepared for what that might look like and be able to overcome those barriers and be able to act in a time of need. The second part of the Heart Safe Richland program is actually teaching hands-only CPR. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have been trained in CPR over the years, and how many of you, when you first were trained, were taught to provide breaths to people? That's everyone in the room, yeah. So, as you know, in medicine, science is always changing, and they're always changing things. Sometimes they change things just so they can make a little bit more money and teach a new class, so we realize that. But really what the science shows is the most important thing in a cardiac arrest is hands-only CPR. It's providing the actual compressions is what saves lives. And that's what this program, the Heart Safe Richland program, that's what we aim to do. We aim to teach you the life-saving skill of hands-only CPR. And how I like to explain it to people is, because I do get a lot of those questions of how come we don't provide the breaths anymore? Don't we need to breathe for these people? The answer is no. If I were to go down right now in cardiac arrest, I have plenty of oxygen in my blood already. I don't need more oxygen. What I need a pump. I have a pump problem, and I need you to provide hands-only CPR to be that pump for me to circulate the blood that I already have that has oxygen in it, to circulate that to my vital organs, and most importantly, my brain. Another component of our program is the use of an automated external defibrillator, or an AED. And that can be a mouthful, but what that is I'm sure you've all seen it. It's when, we put the pads on the person's body and we hit the shock button, and shock and boom, they jump a little bit. And that's what an AED is. And we want people to be familiar with those. And we want people to know how to use them and not be afraid to use them. So we need to overcome that barrier of people that might be just a little bit afraid to use those devices. Along with that is a public access defib program. So what studies have shown is that a lot of times we have AEDs within the community, but a lot of times they are within buildings that are either closed on the weekends, they're closed at night, they are not accessible to the public. So one of the goals of this program is to try to have a 24/7 AED access program, to where we strategically place AEDs within the community and have those available 24/7. So if a need does arise, there's access to that life-saving device. So I have this slide up here to represent, how did this Heart Safe Richland program come about? And really, it came about from our fire chief. He said, there's a certain thing that I want to leave a legacy in the fire department. And the one thing I want to leave is that we have a high quality, high caliber EMS system. And we're going to do that by being customer focused, community driven, and competition ready. So one of our firefighters took that seriously, and he said, well, what can I do in the community to provide value and really to increase cardiac arrest survivability. And he came up with this Heart Safe Richland hands-only CPR program. And really, that's the impetus of this whole program. Is one firefighter had a vision, and he went forth and he put it down in paper. He did the homework, did the legwork, and came up with this program. And over here on the left side of the slide is actually a proclamation from our mayor. And that proclamation is in full support of the Heart Safe Richland program. So we realize not only do we need buy-in from people within the fire department, within our community, but we need buy-in from the leaders within the city, and that's what we have here. So now you kind of know what the program is. We're going to talk a little bit about what is cardiac arrest versus heart attack, because a lot of times when we talk about those two things, they're used interchangeably. And really they are two separate things. They cannot be used interchangeably. They have two completely different meanings. And first we're going to talk about heart attack. So a heart attack is a blocked artery that prevents blood from reaching a certain part of the heart. And those can manifest in chest pain, it can be difficulty breathing, you can have jaw pain, you can have arm pain, but you're generally conscious when you're having a heart attack. So a heart attack is different than cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is a malfunction of your heart. Your heart suddenly stops beating and it is no longer circulating the blood within your body. So that is cardiac arrest. It is different than a heart attack. Now, you can have a heart attack and it can lead to cardiac arrest, but they are not the same thing. And how I like to look at it is a heart attack is a circulation problem. And you can think about that as a clogged pipe within your house, like a sink drain. So sometimes your drain, it might drain slowly. That's because it's clogging and it's narrowing. But there's a little tiny opening that's still left for that water to go down. And then all of a sudden it might stop flowing. And that's a heart attack. It's a clog within those arteries to where blood has stopped flowing to a certain portion of your heart. Now at your house, you pour some Drano down the drain and it clogs it up. And are we still using Drano at Kadlec?
Only selectively.
Only selected Drano. But we do have things called stents. We can go to the cath lab and they can open up those arteries and reperfuse that area of the heart. Now we can look at cardiac arrest as an electrical problem. Either the electrical activity has completely stopped in your heart, or the electrical activity is not organized. It's not flowing in the right direction, it's not originating from the right spot, and that causes cardiac arrest, to where the heart no longer is functioning enough to supply blood throughout your body. So those are kind of the two differences between heart attack and cardiac arrest. So I want to talk a little bit about some statistics. We're going to talk about some national statistics, and then we're also going to talk about statistics that are specific to the city of Richland. So first off, 350,000 people annually go into cardiac arrest in the United States. So almost 1,000 people a day suffer out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. Now, if you have an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest and that cardiac arrest goes unwitnessed, your chances nationwide of surviving that are 10%. 1 in 10, not great. So if you're going to have cardiac arrest, please have someone there to watch you go into cardiac arrest. Because if they do, if I'm up here, a national statistic, I go into cardiac arrest, I'm hoping one of you will come and help me and provide some hands-only CPR. Your survival rate goes up to 33.9%. So that's a fairly significant jump in survivability just by having someone see you go into cardiac arrest and then act. Something we're really proud of here in the city of Richland is that if you go into cardiac arrest in the city of Richland and it's witnessed by someone, your chances of survival jumps up to almost 66%, okay? So we're really proud of that. That's really good. It is a lot better than 33%, which is the national statistic, but we're not satisfied with that. We know we can do better, and there's communities out there in the United States that are getting 80 to 90% cardiac arrest survivability. So that's another reason why we think this program is so important, is because if we can get people to act, we can increase our cardiac arrest survivability. And when I talk about cardiac arrest survivability, I don't mean that we just get your heartbeat back. Those numbers up here, 66.7% in the city of Richland, those represents a person walking out of the hospital able to lead a normal life, able to have another birthday, able to celebrate a birthday with a grandson or a daughter or a husband or a wife. So having a meaningful life after the cardiac arrest, not just a heartbeat back, but having that meaningful life. So some statistics that are specific to the city of Richland here. In 2018, in the city of Richland, we had 44 out of hospital cardiac arrests. Of those cardiac arrests, 26 of those were witnessed by someone. Of those 26, only 13 actually acted on the cardiac arrest and provided some sort of help. So again, you can see the need for a program like this. We need to educate the community to be able to help in their time of need and provide the life-saving skill of hands-only CPR, and that's what this program does. Because of those 13, 8 of those survived. So if we could double that 13 to where all 26 that were witnessed, all 26 people provided some sort of intervention, there's the potential to get that number up to 16. So that's 8 more people within our community who can have another birthday, who can celebrate with their family and go on and lead and have a normal, meaningful life. The American Heart Association has what they call the chain of survival, and it represents basically start to finish of a cardiac arrest. And one thing that we've done really good within the fire department here in Richland is, I keep doing that, I'm sorry. We have really focused on the last 2 links of the chain of survival, which is an ambulance here, which represents EMS, that's us, and this little cardiac monitor over here, which represents the hospital, a higher level of care. We've really focused on that. Within the city of Richland, we've invested over $300,000 in new cardiac monitors, new ventilators, the latest and greatest training to make sure that we're on the cutting edge of what we can do out in the field for cardiac arrest. And we've really focused on that. We've also focused on building a relationship with Kadlec, where we exchange information back and forth, and they are on the leading edge of what they can do in the hospital. But really where we have failed the community is within these first 3 links. And the first one represents early activation of the 911 system. So one of the most important things that you can do if you see someone go into cardiac arrest is call 911, and call 911 right away. Whether you're not sure what's going on, you don't know really what to do, the first thing that you can always do is call 911. And we have one of our dispatch supervisors here who's going to talk about this a little bit later, but they are such a great resource when it comes to cardiac arrest. I can teach you guys hands-only CPR, I can tell you what you should do in the event of a cardiac arrest, but chances are when it happens, it's going to be a high-stress situation. And our dispatchers are some of the best in the country here, and they can walk you through what you need to do should you witness someone in cardiac arrest. The second link here are the 2 hands, and that obviously represents CPR. So we recognize that we have not done a good job educating the community, and that's why we're here with this Heart Safe Richland program to teach hands-only CPR and to give everyone that life-saving skill that they could potentially use. Now, one question that we often get is with the Heart Safe Richland program, is it a certified program? The answer is no. You will not walk away with a certificate saying that you are certified in first aid or CPR. The classes run about 30 minutes, so they're short classes, and that's one of the reasons we hear why people don't want to learn hands-only CPR is because oftentimes the classes are up to 8 hours long, and no one wants to sit through an 8-hour-long class to learn CPR, to learn first aid. It just does not sound like fun. So we hold these classes, they're 30-minute classes, so we can teach you that skill within 30 minutes. And I will tell you that I've been on a number of cardiac arrests in my profession, and I've seen a number of people survive cardiac arrest, and a number of them will come back to the fire station and say thank you for what we've done. And I will tell you that not one of those person has ever asked, you know, that person that did CPR for me, did they have a card when they did CPR? Not one, because it doesn't matter if you have a card, okay? You don't need a card to act, you don't need a card to save someone's life. Yeah, exactly. And then that middle chain is a heart with a kind of a lightning bolt, so to speak, through it, and that represents the AED portion. So that's where teaching people how to use the AED, being comfortable with the AEDs, and that 24/7 AED access program. That's where that comes in within the chain of survival. So what does the chain of survival look like here within the city of Richland? We kind of took a holistic approach and said, what does the chain of survival look like, and who do we need to contact, who do we need to talk to, who do we need to reach out to strengthen the chain of survival within our own community? And obviously we've kind of talked about this. It's the reason why you guys are here. If we can tell you and teach you about hands-only CPR, maybe someday you can save a life out there. We're going to get into later our 911 center, CCOM, one of the best in the country, and we'll have Esther kind of give a little talk about what they can provide. We also realized, I know I'm a firefighter up here, but we said, you know what, our boys in blue, we need to engage them too. And I hate to admit it, but oftentimes they can get to an emergency faster than we can. They're in their patrol cars. They might be right around the corner from where an event is taking place. So we engage them, and our police officers respond on every cardiac arrest within the city of Richland. They're trained in CPR. They also carry AEDs within their patrol cars. So they are vital to the success of this program. They're vital to the success and to the outcomes of people who experience cardiac arrest. And so I'm really proud of that partnership that we have built with the police department, and I'm really proud of their willingness to act. Even though it's technically not their job function, you know, I don't wear a bulletproof vest, I don't carry a gun, but they're willing to have an AED with them, to be trained in CPR, and really they're willing to act in someone's time of need. So that's a really cool thing here. And then obviously we've talked about our role as the fire department, what we've done to try to enhance cardiac arrest survivability in the city of Richland, and then also the partnership that we've built here locally with Kadlec. So PulsePoint Respond. I want to talk a little bit about this. This is a smartphone app. I'm not sure how many of you out there have smartphones, but if you do, feel free to take it out right now. You could take a picture of this. You could take a picture of the banner over here. But PulsePoint Respond is an app that you can download on your smartphone, and it will let you know when a cardiac arrest occurs, and it will ask if you would be willing to respond and provide CPR. Now, there's a few caveats to that. It's not going to alert you if it's in someone's private home. We don't want you going to someone's private residence. We don't know what might be going on there that led to the cardiac arrest. But this will alert you if the cardiac arrest is in a public space, meaning a restaurant, a shopping center, the Toyota Center, someone that's out on the street corner. It will alert you if you're within a half a mile of that cardiac arrest, and it will ask you if you would be willing to respond to provide CPR to someone in need. Now, we always get asked, do I have to respond? Is there a liability if I don't respond? And the answer is no. You don't have to respond. We don't track who responds and who doesn't respond. We don't even know who gets alerted. What we do get is a map that shows there was a certain number of people that got the alert, but we don't know who they are, what devices they are. So no, you don't have to respond. We would encourage you to respond because that's the way we're going to increase cardiac survivability here within the Tri-Cities, but there's no requirement to, and you won't be held liable if you don't respond. You won't be held liable if you do respond and don't do a good job at doing CPR. It's okay. We always say any CPR is better than no CPR. And there's a law within the state of Washington called the Good Samaritan Law. And that law protects you against any liability for providing CPR or not providing CPR in someone's time of need. So I would encourage everyone, if you're up for it, look into the app, download the app, and have CPR alerts enabled on the app so you can be alerted if someone is in need of CPR. So what's our education plan? Where are we aiming to take this program? Who are we aiming to educate within this program? And really, we've identified some key areas where we think it would be beneficial. And first of all, that's within the school district. I don't know if some of you saw within the news last year, but we held the pilot program with Chief Joe Elementary School, where we trained the whole school, students and staff, in this hands-only CPR program. And our goal is to continue that within the school district and bring it to all the middle schools and all the high schools so we can teach those students this life-saving skill of hands-only CPR. And quite honestly, if we can hit them young, it's something that you really will never forget. It's almost like riding a bike. So if we can educate those students, that will turn into educated adults as they grow up. Some other things we're hoping to hit is homeowners associations. I don't know if anyone lives within the Horn Rapids area of our town, but we're actually holding a class tonight at their community center to teach this hands-only CPR class. We also hold open enrollment classes at the community center within Richland. So the third Thursday of every month, there's open enrollment classes where you can enroll and you can learn the life-saving skill of hands-only CPR. And I know there's one person here, where'd she go, that was at the last class, right there. Yeah, thank you. Was it a good class? Excellent class, she says, thank you. I didn't even pay her to say that, so that's even better. So we're also targeting businesses. We want to make businesses heart-safe businesses. So if you know a business, if you have a business out there, we're willing to come in and teach this class. I don't know if I mentioned it, but it's a free class. The class costs nothing. We'll come in and teach a class to a business, and we'll designate that business as a heart-safe business. And we've done 8 of those last year. We also target churches. We realize churches are a big demographic within our community, and we'd be willing to come in and teach churches the life-saving skill of hands-only CPR. And then really any event where there's a large gathering of people. That's why you guys are here. That's why I'm here, because we have a large gathering of people at an event like this. So if you can think of any kind of events like that you think would benefit from this program, please come see me afterwards, and we'd be more than happy to talk about that. So now the rest of the program here, we're going to listen to an actual 911 audio from a wife who is calling our local dispatch center here. This happened within the Tri-Cities, calling to report her husband in cardiac arrest. Before we do that, I want to bring up Esther from our 911 center, and she's going to talk to you guys a little bit about what the 911 center here, CCOM, can offer you and what it might look like when you call 911 and really what a resource they can be.
Thank you. So my name is Esther Duncan. I am a 911 dispatch supervisor, and I've been there for about 14 years, I think, now. I really love what I do. This is a really good program, that Heart Safe. It's really become something that I have a passion for to help the Richland Fire Department with. I'm a widow, so my husband went into cardiac arrest just over a year ago. I had to do CPR on him, and he passed away. So it's always been a passion of mine, and it's really, really important for me and for the community to know what a resource you can be to your friend, your spouse, or whatnot, whoever's in front of you. You can definitely save a life. As a 911 dispatcher, I've been on the other end where I've taken the phone calls and I've been able to provide instruction. Our role as a 911 dispatcher and as a call taker there is to kind of talk to the person, guide them, and try to explain to them and get them to a position where they can actually provide these life-saving skills and perform these things to the person that is needing them in a calm manner. And I think getting them to that point where they're calm enough that they can provide these things to this person in need is very important. And so that's one of the biggest things that our call takers do is we answer the phone. We never know what's going to be on the other end of the line. And so we will say, okay, is the person conscious? So that's our first question. If somebody calls and says, I need an ambulance, somebody has collapsed or whatnot, our first question is always going to be, is the person conscious? If the answer is no, our next question is going to be, is the person breathing normally? And what that means is if you cannot tell if the person is breathing normally, meaning their chest is rising and falling in a rhythmic manner, then that means that we're going to start doing CPR. We're going to start giving you instructions, and we will guide you through them. So the next thing that we'll say, okay, they're not breathing normally, they're unconscious. I'm going to start giving you CPR instructions. I need you to lay them flat on their back, on the ground, and I need you to kneel by their side, and we just, step by step. And once you've done that, let me know. I'll give you the next step. Once you've done that, let me know. I'll give you the next step. So don't hesitate. A lot of people hesitate because they think they're going to hurt them. You're not going to hurt them any more than they not receiving the CPR instructions or the performance of CPR. A lot of people are hesitant because they think that they're going to break their ribs or their cartilage. That just means that you're going deep enough and that you're creating that pump that they're really needing. So you're doing it effectively. That's important. And we'll talk you through all that process. We'll stay on the phone with you when we create these calls in our computers. What it does is it automatically will split. It will create a call for the fire department, and it'll automatically split to the Richland Police Department. That's where he's talking about. We've built this partnership. We take the call, we write it up as quickly as we can. Our goal is always to write up a call and get somebody dispatched within 60 seconds of an emergency. We hit that probably 90% of the time. We are quick, we are fast. But for us to get to that point, we really need, the community when they're calling to be able to really listen and answer the questions that we need. Knowing where you're at, that's one of our biggest issues when we get callers. The majority of the calls that we get are through cell phones. Cell phones don't necessarily tell us where you're at. So you have to be able to tell me, are you at the Uptown? Which side of the Uptown are you at? Because there's a Jadwin and there's a George Washington Way side. That's going to determine which direction the fire department approaches you or the Richland Police Department approaches you. So being able to answer where you're at and being able to answer the questions that we have are going to be very, very important. And I know it's really hard when you're in a situation where it's stressful. I've been on both sides of it. I know what it's like. And I can guarantee you I would have not wanted any other person or any other dispatch center to answer my call than my own dispatch center. They did a really, really good job. They were on the phone with me the whole time. When the fire department responded and arrived to my house, they did a magnificent job. They worked on him for as long as they could, and he was not a save, of course, but they did everything that they could at that point. And that's what's important, is for us to know that you're able to do as much as you can for that person that's in need. With that being said, just like he said, if you guys ever want to tour our dispatch center, it's a public facility. I can schedule tours. You can get with me afterwards, and we can do that. I am also within the dispatch center. I'm kind of the lead of what's called 911 public education. So within that, I really try to reach the community and teach the community about 911 and what our services are, and really what we can do to help you in not only medical conditions, but any sort of need that you might have, whether it's law enforcement or fire or EMS, and kind of the role that we play with that. So if you have groups like that, like homeowners associations or different types of groups, church groups, or anything that you would like 911 to come out and do a public education event on our end of it, please get a hold of me and we can arrange that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. That's a really good perspective, and thanks for coming here and explaining that. So in case you didn't believe her, we're actually going to listen to this 911 audio, and it really hits on everything that Esther talked about. You're going to hear the dispatcher. She's going to walk this person through, these two people through starting CPR. At times she's going to be a little bit forceful because she knows that she has to be to get these people to act, because they're trying to overcome that emotional barrier. And you're going to see what a great resource the 911 dispatcher is. A couple things I want you to pay attention to that are kind of some barriers to overcome. Esther talked about the first question that they're going to ask is the person conscious, yes or no? And that's all it is, a yes or no question. If it's no, the next question is, are they breathing normally? And like Esther said, it's not, it really is breathing normally like you and I are breathing right now. If you see someone gasping for air, if it doesn't look normal, it's not, and we need to start CPR, and you're going to hear this within this 911 audio. Now, I do want to say this can be kind of an emotional thing, so if it's something that you don't want to listen to, if you don't feel comfortable, it's okay. Feel free to step out it's about a 4-minute audio clip that we'll listen to. We'll come get you afterwards and bring you back in, but I just want to warn everyone because this can be kind of an emotional thing. So with that being said, we'll listen to the audio. I want you to listen to what the dispatcher says, and there's a few things that happen. The caller reports that the patient had a seizure, and I can tell you the dispatcher will ask, does he have a history of seizures? And they will say no. I can guarantee you this patient that experienced cardiac arrest did not have a seizure. What you witness sometimes is some seizure-like activity, and it looks like a seizure, but it's not. It's the body's way of shutting down during a cardiac arrest. The other thing that you'll hear them say is, I think he's breathing. And again, the dispatcher will ask, are they breathing normally? And they will say no, and the dispatcher will say, then you need to continue CPR. So with that being said, we'll listen to this audio clip. It's about 4 minutes long, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. Okay. Now you don't breathe in. You don't enjoy yourself. Yes. He did what to himself? He's overexerting himself. He's on the spine. We're laying flat. Okay. So I need you to lay him flat on his back so we can start CPR. He's on his back right now. Okay. What? Kneel by his side. Yes. Okay. Okay. Heart beating. Okay. So we have two people here. Okay. We have two people here. I understand that, but he's unconscious and not breathing, correct? Yes. Okay. Not breathing. So we're going to do CPR. So whoever's kneeling by his side. Okay, we're doing CPR, Jay. Doing CPR. Put your hand on the center of their chest, right between the nipples. Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Hey, what you doing now?
What?
Dad's jaw his jaw is locked. He can't breathe.
Okay, I'm trying to give CPR instructions. I need you guys, whoever's sitting next to or kneeling next to him, put your hand on the center of his chest, right between the
Put the
nipples.
hand on the center of the chest. Right between the nipples.
Put your other hand on top of that hand. Listen, with straight arms, you're going to push down as hard as you can, just like you're touching my chest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1. Yeah, keep going. You keep going. So we're going to do it's compressions only at this point. You want to keep doing those compressions, and you got to push down as hard as you can on that chest. Do you understand?
Keep going.
Yep. 2, 3. We've had this session. As soon as you guys call, keep going. Keep going. How old is he?
Okay, we're doing it.
Okay, yep. Keep going on the compression. We don't need to open his mouth. We're doing compression. All we're doing, please. Okay.
Okay.
How old is he?
He is 50 years old.
50. Okay.
And he's overweight.
Okay. Okay.
Water will we do? Not water's mouth, I know, but do I need to close now?
No, we just need to do compressions on his chest. He's what?
Okay, we're doing it. We're doing it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Okay, come on, 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, that fast. We have to go that fast and just keep doing the compressions. Is he vomiting or anything like that? No, not vomiting. Okay, keep doing those compressions. You guys are doing a great job. And you guys are just out front straight? What? You guys are outside? Yes, outside straight, yes. Okay. Yes, round out, just keep going. Yep, you're doing a good job. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Just make sure you're right under the yeah, I got your in the backyard. You're in the backyard? Yes, we're in the backyard. Just come to the house if you want to. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let the dog get it. 4, okay. 5, 6, 7. Keep going. Okay, keep going. Hold on. Yeah, make sure that you guys are pushing down as hard as you can. And nice down as hard as you can, Shannon. As hard as you can. Yep. See how you get the heart bill already. He overexerted himself. He didn't have a little seizure. He had a seizure? Yes, he did. He had right foot twitching. He did have a seizure. Okay. So we're doing his license right now. Okay. Does he have a history of seizures, ma'am? No, he doesn't have a history of seizures, but he overdid it. Okay. He doesn't have, you have to get your heart rate without any diabetes. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. 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 Keep going on the pressure. He's still not breathing. No reaction. You know, he's breathing, I think, on check. Okay. If you're
Okay, so as you can see, what a great resource the 911 dispatcher is. Really took charge of that situation and walked that family through what they needed to do to try and save their loved one. So did you guys catch in there about the seizure part? They said he had a seizure. Does he have a seizure history? No. Well, that's because he didn't have a seizure. And then they asked about the breathing. And she said his jaw's locked. Well, we don't provide breaths anymore. We don't need to worry about that. All we need to worry about is the hands-only compressions. The next video we're going to watch is a video of a gentleman, his name is Chris Solomons. And I actually got to meet Chris in December at a cardiac arrest survival summit that I went to. He's a cardiac arrest survivor. And kind of an interesting story. He's a dispatcher for an air ambulance over in the UK. And it just so happened that there was a film crew at this dispatch center filming what goes on in an air ambulance dispatch center, and Chris happens to go into cardiac arrest while the film crew is there. So this is video of a real person going into cardiac arrest. It is not staged, it's not a video, but it really provides some key things. You'll watch him go into cardiac arrest, you're going to actually see this seizure-like activity that we talked about, and you're going to see that you have to perform compressions through this seizure-like activity and overcome that barrier, not let it bother you, but know that you're doing the best thing that you can to save this person's life. So it's about 2 minutes long. We'll watch it, and hopefully it'll be valuable.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Look. All right, mate. What? Yeah, you do.
So he's having some chest pain right now.
India.
And right here, he's gone into cardiac arrest. See his hand coming up. So that is not a seizure. He's not doing that because he wants to. It's his body's way of going into cardiac arrest. You can see the paramedics have applied their version of the AED with those pads on his chest. And you notice that they're not breathing for him either. They're focused on chest compressions.
Connect electrodes.
So they just delivered a shock to Chris.
All right, Chris. Go on, kid.
Okay, so just kind of a visual representation of what you might expect if you see someone go into cardiac arrest. Obviously, if you're going to go into cardiac arrest around a bunch of paramedics, is probably about the best place you can do it. So, which is why Chris had such a good outcome, and I think this was about 6 or 7 years ago, and that's why I got to meet him this past December, is still alive and doing just fine. So, kind of a feel-good story, but also a good representation of what you can expect when someone does go into cardiac arrest. You know, I can tell you that these things will happen, but until you can actually see it, it's a little more powerful. The next video we're going to watch is a chain of survival video that we produced here in partnership with PixelSoft Films here in Richland. And really what it does is it represents the chain of survival and what it looks like here within the city of Richland, from activation of 911 all the way to putting them in the ambulance and then on the way to definitive care at the hospital.
Hey! Hey! Are you all right?
Where's your emergency?
This guy fell. He's on the ground.
Okay, where are you at?
I'm in Richland.
Okay, where in Richland?
At the Uptown Shopping Center.
Are you on the George Washington side or the Jadwin side?
No, I'm on the Jadwin side. Yes, Jadwin side.
Okay, is the person conscious?
No, he isn't.
Okay, are they breathing normally?
No.
Okay, we're gonna start CPR. This is what I need you to do. I need you to lay him flat on his back on the floor, okay?
Okay.
My partner's gonna be
Okay.
dispatching the fire department, but while they do that, I need you to
Okay.
do this for me. Flat on his back on the floor?
Yes, he is.
Okay, I need you to kneel by their side.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, with straight arms, push down as hard as you can.
Okay.
Let's start pushing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Ma'am, I have an AED.
We have a defibrillator.
Okay, so what I need you to do is I need you to open up the defib. It needs to be next to the patient's head. Let me know when it's open. It's open? Okay, so I need you to turn it on.
If the patient is a child, press the child.
Okay, it's on.
Okay, you're going to open up his shirt so that the skin is showing. And then you're going to follow the instructions on that defibrillator. Let me know when you've done that.
Remove pocket
So that video there was just kind of a visual representation of what the chain of survival looks like within the city of Richland here. The next video we're going to watch, and it's the last one, is just a demonstration video of how to do hands-only CPR. Normally when we teach our classes, we'll watch this video on how to do CPR, and then we'll have a time where we get a practice, and we do 3 2-minute rounds of CPR. And you'll find out that it's quite a workout. And if anyone wants to, after this class is over, we can go in the back. I do have some of the cubes here. You're more than welcome to practice. But this is just a short video demonstrating hands-only CPR.
Kneel as close to the patient as possible, placing the heel of one palm in the center of the chest. Next, place the other palm over that one and interlock your fingers. With your arms straight and elbows locked, begin compressions. Perform compressions at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. You want at least 2 inches of depth and 2 inches of recoil every compression. If you have a partner, switch out every 2 minutes. When switching compressors, it must be coordinated so as not to pause compressions for more than 10 seconds. If you do not have a partner, continue compressions until EMS arrives, and do not provide breaths. The CPR cube measures depth, recoil, and rate. With every successful compression, LED lights located on the bottom of the cube will light up one by one. If you succeed 15 times in a row, LED lights revolve around the cube to display blood flow. Continue compressions until the instructor says stop. Hey, you okay? No response, checking for a pulse. No pulse, Joe, call 911, grab an AED, come back and help me. I'm going to start compressions. In the event you have access to an AED, instruct your partner to call 911, grab the AED, and come back to help you. Once the AED arrives, turn it on and listen to the prompts.
Stay calm. Check responsiveness. Call for help. Attach defib pads to patient's bare chest.
Applying pads in 3, 2, 1.
Don't touch patient. Press flashing shock button. Shock delivered. Start CPR.
So there you go, Chief Joe Middle School, and you can go watch it on YouTube, our pilot program. So you'll notice I was not in any of those videos. They tell me I have a face for radio. I don't really know what that means, but we'll go with it, I guess. So this is my last slide, and I apologize it's taking longer than than I thought for Dr. Matheson here, but I just want to talk to you about really what does it look like when EMS arrives and what that means. So here in the city of Richland, when we're dispatched, we dispatch one ambulance, either another ambulance or a fire engine, a battalion chief's vehicle, Richland police, and a chaplain. And that's what our response to a cardiac arrest looks like. And a lot of times it's going to look like a little chaotic, but I want everyone to know that it's organized chaos, and we really do know what we're doing. And one of the things we often get when we arrive is it's hard for a loved one to see someone in cardiac arrest, and they see us just staying there, and they say, you need to get to the hospital, you need to get to the hospital. And that's what they tell us all the time. You need to hurry up. What are you doing here? Go to the hospital. And I just want to tell everyone that really everything that we're doing out in the field in someone's home is exactly what they're going to be doing in the emergency room. And in fact, studies have shown that what's best for the patient is for us to try to get their heartbeat back at their home or out in the field somewhere before we transport them to the hospital. Because really, we're teaching you guys hands-only CPR, and we want you to focus on good compressions, but I will tell you the number one thing that we focus on when we arrive is doing good quality compressions, and that's really what we care about. So we also have a few other things in our disposal. We have a cardiac monitor, we have medications that we can give, we have tubes that we can put to breathe for people, so we have a few more things that we can do, but I just wanted to let you guys know that we really focus on hands-only compressions, just like we teach the lay public. So that being said, I'm going to transition to Dr. Matheson. He's going to talk a little bit about what it looks like when we bring a patient to him in the emergency room.
Thank you, and I'm John Matheson. I am a physician at Kadlec in the emergency department. You know, if I'm ever speaking to a group of people, I often am concerned, is what I'm saying worth the time investment that all these people are making? I don't have to worry about that today because you've already had a very worthwhile session, and I will reiterate what he said. Hands-only CPR, getting started early, makes the biggest difference. It may make a bigger difference than what we do in the emergency department or what they do in the rig getting that started. I'm also a fan of PulsePoint. I got the app when we first got it in this area. I was in Seattle and I got a notice that there was somebody who needed CPR. I responded, but the EMS beat me to them. So, but good program. And you know, with the hands-only CPR also, I remember going and taking the classes, and okay, let's see, I have to do 2-inch compressions, and then it's 15 compressions, then I stop and I do 2 breaths, unless I'm with somebody, and then is it 5 to 1, and after so much time I'm supposed to do a pulse check, and how deep am I? Yeah, it gets, and that's when you're calm and not imagining that setting. Now, I tell people, push hard, push fast, don't stop. There's your CPR lesson. Push hard, push fast, don't stop. So we are part of this chain. This is a team effort. And as Mike said, on the scene, what they're doing is important, it's critical, and so it is the continuation of what you've started, they're gonna do, and we're gonna continue. And just like he said, our biggest emphasis is good CPR. We practice doing good CPR because it makes a big difference. Now, if you've had this event, and of course it's a traumatic event and you've just been going through this and all of a sudden the medics come and they whisk somebody off and you follow and you go to the emergency department, this is what it may look like. In fact, these are pictures that I've taken in our emergency department at these events, and just like he said, it may look chaotic to you. But every one of these people has a role and it is organized. But it's also easy for the loved one or the bystander to kind of get forgotten because everybody's focused on the patient. But be prepared, there's going to be a lot of activity and a lot of what may look like chaos there. And we want to include you in this, and we want you to be prepared for it, but it can be a little chaotic looking. One thing that I will say, and we want to leave some time for questions, so I'll abbreviate things. We've talked a lot about saving people's lives, and that's what we train for, that's what we're prepared to do, that's what we want to do. But our biggest goal is to do what you want us to do. And not everybody wants that done. And so there are those who do not want to be resuscitated if something happens. But we don't have time to go and investigate and research and find out. And so there are some things we want to do what you would want us to do. And it also helps your loved ones not to have to make that decision in the heat of the moment. So have those discussions early, what you want. Talk to your doctor. I don't know if anybody's seen these. It's called a PulsePoint form. It's the physician orders for life-sustaining treatment, and you can talk to your doctor about it and have a more in-depth discussion about it, what it means. And it outlines if you are in an extreme condition, heart stops, not breathing, you have a cardiac arrest, what do you want done and under what circumstances? And if we have this and it's available, and if your family knows about it and it's available for the paramedics and others, then we can fulfill your wishes, because we're going to do everything until we hear otherwise. That's what we're trained to do. That's what we're prepared to do. We're happy to do it. But most importantly, we want to do what you would have us do. I think in the interest of time, let's save some time for questions. And probably want to ask him because he did most of the time. Yes?
I want to know, how long do you continue to do those compressions?
Yeah, so the question is, how long do you continue to do those compressions? And it's a good point. So we asked the lay provider to do compressions until EMS arrives. We want you to do them nonstop until EMS arrives, or until you physically cannot do it anymore. If you have someone there with you, we recommend that you switch out every 2 minutes, or until you get tired, because we realize as you get tired, the effectiveness of CPR degrades, and we want to do high quality compressions. And then quite honestly, we will continue those compressions until we get someone's heartbeat back. And so really, it's until we get a heartbeat back. One thing I failed to bring up is, how long do you think it takes on average us to get to a scene? We strive to be there in under 5 minutes 80% of the time. That's a goal here within the city of Richland. So, it could take us 2 minutes, it could take us 8 minutes, but somewhere in there, that's about how long you're going to have to do compressions until we arrive. And if you've never practiced compressions before, you'll find out that it is a workout. When we do our classes, we do 3 rounds of 2 minutes each, and people are exhausted by the end. So it's no joke. So we ask you to just do the best you can for as long as you can. Yes, sir.
So are pacemakers placed so that they don't interfere with compressions?
What was that? Are the pacemakers?
Are pacemakers placed?
Are pacemakers, but yes, pacemakers, first of all, they're very small. They're usually off to the side. They do not interfere. And even if they're right in the center of the chest, we would push right through, because at that point, the pump is the important thing, and we will continue, and we need to pump the heart, so we will push. And things happen during, as was mentioned. If you're doing it, don't be surprised. You're going to hear and feel some uncomfortable things, because ribs do break. And that's a disturbing feeling. But remember, you're moving blood. Broken ribs are minor compared to not surviving. And so keep going. It's unpleasant. This is deep. This is heavy stuff we're talking about. And if you've experienced it, and hopefully nobody ever does. But how much better it is if you're prepared and recognize some of what you will face. But pacemakers do not cause a problem with doing CPR. You can do CPR.
Yes, sir.
So this might be a silly question, but if you dial 911 but you do not have a local area code, you still go to the closest 911?
Yes. So it's cell phones, they bounce off of towers. And so it will, if you have a Florida cell phone and you're here in town, you'll get our dispatch center. Yep.
Thank you. There's another hand over here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if you're out on the highway or in a remote area and this happens, how long does the breath in the body last before, and should you try to get breath in?
So asked if you're in a remote area where this is going to be a prolonged period of time, how long does the breath last, or how long before you consider doing breath? Hands only CPR, and while it is true your body does have oxygen in it, but also how do we breathe? We breathe by expanding our chest and sucking air in, and then we relax the chest and it pushes it out. When you're doing CPR, the chest is moving in and out. As it moves in and out, it's kind of like a bellows. Do you think of those bellows? And so you are moving air with the chest compressions only. So it's not just the oxygen that's already stored. You are moving air in and out. It's not deep breathing like you would do, but it's enough to sustain. And the important thing too is every time you interrupt the blood flow, and you think it's just a few seconds and you go right back on, it's several compressions in. It's quite a while before it really restores the flow. So you don't want to stop at all if you can avoid it. You want that blood flowing, and that in and out with just the compressions will provide enough ventilation typically to support somebody for a long period of time. And you had a question, and then we'll come back.
Could you tell me the difference between a heart attack and congestive heart failure?
That's the difference between a heart attack and congestive heart failure. So, as Mike mentioned, a heart attack is when the blood flow to part of the heart is disrupted. And that part of the heart is a muscle, that part of the muscle is not getting the blood flow it needs to function. The cells in that muscle are starting to die. That is a heart attack. Congestive heart failure is a condition where your heart as a pump is not pumping very efficiently. Often after a heart attack, because of injury, that muscle, enough of those cells have died that the heart, instead of pumping really well, doesn't pump quite as well. And so it's inefficient in its ability to pump. That's a quick and... Asking about CPR in children. And we still typically talk about hands-only CPR. It is, first of all, it's easier to remember, it's less intimidating to do. Any CPR is better than no CPR, and so people are more comfortable doing CPR if you don't have to think again, how many breaths, how fast, how much, we're concerned about some of those things, but really push hard, push fast, keep going. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So in our center, we use a program called Criteria-Based Dispatching off of King County. It's an amazing program that we use. And for children, depending on the age, we will give you the instructions to do breaths. So we do breaths on children, depending on the age. But we will give you those instructions. So that's not something you have to remember or recall. We will give you those instructions depending on the age.
And with children tend not to have their heart stop primarily. With adults, it's typically a heart condition that causes it, whereas with children, it tends to be respiratory or something else, and the heart gives up because of that. And so that might be a time that you would breathe for them.
Yep.
Is it necessary to differentiate between a heart attack and a stroke? In other words, if someone collapses, do I worry about either? Or?
So again, that is asking about, again, the difference between a heart attack and do I need to worry about, is it a heart attack if somebody collapses? What we're talking about is cardiac arrest. And heart attack is a much wider, somebody may be having a heart attack that leads to cardiac arrest. We are talking about somebody who collapses and is unconscious. You don't have to worry about why it is. If they're not breathing and they're collapsed and they're unconscious, start CPR. And you don't have to worry, was it a heart attack? Was it something else? Heart attack, it includes or can lead up to cardiac arrest, but heart attack does not mean that you have cardiac arrest.
And really it goes back to those two questions that the dispatch center will ask you. Are they conscious? Yes or no? Are they breathing normally? And really that's all you have to worry about. If the answer is no, they're not conscious, and no, they're not breathing normally, then we're going to treat that as a cardiac arrest. And we tell you, do compressions until you can't, or they push you off and say, stop doing that, that hurts. Yep. Then you're allowed to stop.
Had it happen.
Yeah.
Right. And along those lines, if you took CPR a long time ago, you pulse checks and things. It's hard. It's hard. And even in the hospital, they've done studies, even in the hospital, when you feel a pulse, it's about as as likely that you're feeling your own as you are that you're feeling somebody else. So don't even worry about a pulse. That's why we don't even talk about that anymore. Unconscious and not breathing normally.
Okay. Yeah, we call it, when I train, in our center, we train for them to be certified to deliver these instructions, and I call it the no-go. No, okay, let's go. We're doing CPR. There's just no question in between. We're getting it started.
Any other questions? We're bumping up right against 2 o'clock, so I don't want to keep you guys here. We're in fact a little bit over, but if you have questions, I think we'll all be here for a little while. Feel free to come up to us, talk to us. If you want to practice some hands-only CPR, I have some of the CPR cubes in the back of the room. Feel free to meet me back there and we can do a few rounds of compressions together. So thank you very much for having us. Thank you, Dr. Matheson. Thank you, Esther, for coming.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.